Poor Girl Abandoned School for Nightclub and This Happened? This is an emotional story. Before we go deep, kindly let us know the country you are watching from and don't forget to subscribe. Let's go for the night party coming up in a week's time. I got invited by a friend of mine who has connections with rich friends. Only rich people will attend the party, Teresa said to Mercy. No, I can't go to a night party. What will I tell my parents? Besides, we were sent to school to go and study. This is our final year in secondary school, so I think we should be more focused on our upcoming examinations than going for a night party, Mercy responded. I told you that Mercy was going to be stubborn. We will go and leave her, Patience said, looking at Teresa. Mercy, why don't you want to enjoy this life for once? Your parents are poor just like ours. Our parents are even doing better than yours, yet a rich girl, who I made friends with, sent me an invitation to a night party where we can see rich men, and you are saying no? You want poverty to finish you. Don't you know we can meet someone who can change our story there? Teresa asked. See, Teresa, Patience. I don't want to go to any night parties. You both can go ahead. Just leave me out of it. I'll manage myself with my poor parents. Since we have nothing more to say, I'll be taking my leave now, Mercy said, and started walking faster, leaving her friends behind. This girl will never change. She doesn't know that too much good girl is not good. Me, I will follow you. Oh, I want to see rich people and see what it looks like to be rich, Patience said, and started walking out of the scene with Teresa. As Mercy got home that day, there was no food for her. Her mother was sick and didn't go to the market. Her father, who was struggling with his business, was not yet back from work. Mercy was hungry and never expected to meet an empty pot. But seeing her mother looking sick didn't let her feel the hunger. She was more concerned about her mother's health than the food she was supposed to eat. Mercy took her mother's phone and called her father, telling her about her mother's condition. Her father was really having a bad day in his business. Some of the goods he had sold 2 days ago were returned, and he needed money to repay the one who had bought the goods. He had only managed to pay the part payment for her daughter's upcoming examinations. Hearing his wife was sick only meant that he had to buy her drugs when coming home. He literally had no money on him for extra expenses. When Mercy had hung up the call after delivering her message, her father, Lebecci, looked up at the sky, wondering what was really going on. He went to borrow money from some people around his business area, but no one agreed he had any more to spare. Everyone gave a different excuse why they won't give him some money. Lebecci had to sell some of his goods at a very cheap price just to get money to buy drugs for his wife. When he came back with the drugs, he gave it to his wife. There was no food at home, and he managed to squeeze out some money. He gave it to Mercy, who bought some food and made a quick meal. Mercy could tell that her father was really worried. Her mother, on the other hand, just fell sick without any warnings. She remembered her conversation with her classmates and wondered why God had made her parents poor. She knew her mother to be a hard-working woman, but things don't always go in her favour, her father also. It was as if they had bad luck following them. Mercy laid on her old fallen mattress till she slept off. The next day when she woke up, her mother was feeling a bit better than yesterday because of the drugs she had taken. Mercy left for school after making a quick breakfast with what was left of what she bought yesterday. 6 days gone already, and the day when Teresa and Patience were going to attend the night party arrived. Mercy had eavesdropped on the girls and heard them talking about the clothes they were going to put on. She was already feeling the need to join them. She was really suffering at home, and no one was coming for their rescue. Her parents really tried and raised her properly as a girl child should, but she wasn't really enjoying life. Most of her classmates had iPhones and were dressed rich. Even her friends, Teresa and Patience, weren't looking as poor as she was. It was as if she was cursed. At least just one day of enjoyment won't end her life. Besides, who knows, just like in the movies, someone may decide to help her out with her education. From the look of things, her father can't afford to send her to the university. As Mercy kept racing through her forest of thoughts, Teresa and Patience walked towards where she was seated. "Are you still?" "Yes. I'll go, Mercy answered sharply, without waiting for Teresa to finish her question. I'm sorry, I didn't know when that came out, Mercy said, immediately apologizing. It's okay, we are here for you. Did you tell your parents about extra classes just like we did? Patience asked. Mercy shook her head from the left, biting her nails. Go hey, take my phone and call your mum. Tell her you will be coming home very late because of classes, demanded Ben, handing her phone to Mercy. What if she refuses? What will I wear? What if... Stop asking lots of questions, Mercy. You are a big girl. Just call your mum and tell her you will be coming back late today because of extra classes. As for what you would put on, I already have you in mind, and added an extra dress. Teresa said, smiling. Mercy took the phone from Teresa slowly. She stood up and moved out a bit, then spoke with her mum inaudibly. After talking for a while, she came back and handed the phone back to Teresa with a sad countenance. What did she say? Did she accept? Teresa asked, and Patience also paid attention to hear what Mercy had to say. You accepted? Mercy said and started smiling. They all teased her and laughed. Time began to speed by. Mercy was uncomfortable in the dress given to her by Teresa, but she had to manage in order to fit in. It was 9 p.m. already when the girls arrived at the party venue. They didn't let Mercy have access to their phones, so she wouldn't know time was speeding by. When they arrived, Mercy saw guys and girls who looked rich by what they were putting on. She wondered where her parents were when others were making money. Teresa chose a table where she and her friends sat watching what was going on. After a few minutes, Mercy became uneasy and wanted to go back home, but her friends were still very much feeling the party. They left her and went to dance on the stage with the others. 2 guys came to where Mercy was seated and began to talk to her. Mercy was feeling so uneasy, but they convinced her that they were harmless. It took only about 5 minutes of speaking to the guys, and Mercy passed out. Manemai. What happened to me? Mercy asked herself as soon as she opened her eyes with one hand on her head. She felt some sharp pains in her head. She looked up and saw some eyes staring at her. Mercy stood up immediately and dragged down the gown which was exposing her laps. Her head arched her, and she felt some pains around her pubic region. Then she noticed bloodstains on her dress. Mercy broke down in tears immediately as she walked out from those who had fixed their gaze on her and murmured. She didn't actually know where she was, but she wanted to walk away from the eyes of those who had seen her on the ground. Mercy then remembered what happened. She had lied to her mother earlier that she was going to help her friend do some tedious house chores. She promised her mother that she was going to come back home before 8 p.m, but from the look of things it was the next day already, and her mother must be worried sick. Mercy was in pain both physically and emotionally. She had disappointed her parents and didn't know what she was going to tell them. As Mercy walked towards the main road, she could feel tears streaming down her cheeks. Though she couldn't remember what had happened, she knew her flower had been tampered with. She looked around and couldn't tell where she was. She asked someone who told her. Mercy realized that it was a bit far from her house. Walking will take her almost an hour or more to get home. She was already tired and weak. She tried to use the dress she was wearing to wipe her cheeks, and some money fell out from the dress. She picked it up and entered a taxi with the money. So many thoughts kept flying into Mercy's head. What will her mother say if she sees her? What about her father? He was going to really scold her for staying out all night. Her mind was racing in fear of what was going to happen when she got home. When Mercy finally reached home, her father wasn't home. Her mother was seated outside in tears. It felt like the sickness which she thought was completely healed came back. As soon as her mother saw her, she stood up and ran towards her in tears. And like what Mercy was expecting, her mother hugged her tightly first, with tears streaming down her cheeks. Mercy couldn't help but join her mother. I thought I've lost you forever. What happened? Where did you go? Why did you lie to me, your mother? Do you want to kill me before my time? I couldn't sleep all night. Mercy, why did you lie to me? Mrs. Lillian, Mercy's mother, asked, looking into her eyes. You said you were going over to help Teresa with some house chores. You told me that you would be coming back home before 8 p.m. We waited and waited, but we didn't see you. When it was past 10 p.m, we went over to Teresa's house, but you were not there. Teresa was all alone. She told me her parents travelled with her siblings. I asked Teresa your whereabouts and she said she didn't know. Teresa said after the extra classes she didn't come in contact with you again. When I asked her why she had used her phone to call me, she said she wasn't aware that you had called me with her phone. Mercy's mother said. Mercy stood shocked, and her feet got glued to where she stood. Teresa, who had convinced her to follow them for the night party, was the same person who told her parents she didn't know her whereabouts. Tears streamed down the cheeks of Mercy as she stared at her mother. Mercy, talk to me. What happened, and where were you last night? Her mother asked. Mercy cried out and ran into the house. Her mother wasn't feeling too well, so she decided to let her be and talk to her later. She was just happy her daughter was back home safe. Days went by and Mercy had refused to tell her parents what really happened that night. Of the truth, she didn't even remember what had happened after she passed out. Any time they try to talk to her about it, all she does is cry. Mercy noticed that when she started distancing herself from her friends Patience and Teresa, none of them ever came to beg for her forgiveness. She had confronted Teresa for lying and telling her mother she didn't know her whereabouts, but Teresa didn't react with any guilt feelings. That was when Mercy realized that her friends had betrayed her and that even hurt her more. A few weeks later, it was almost time for the external examinations. Mercy started feeling sick. She would sleep off whenever she takes up her book to read. She always developed headaches, unlike her. Exams were fast approaching and she got sick every day. When Mrs. Lillian noticed that her daughter was pregnant, her heart couldn't carry it. Those were not the plans they had for her. Even though they were poor, they wanted their daughter to make them proud. They had tried their best to raise her up in the way of the Lord. She called Mercy and asked her who was responsible for the pregnancy, but Mercy had no response to give. She didn't know who had put her in a family way. That night, Mrs. Lillian's sudden health issues became worse. Mrs. Lillian sat on the wooden chair outside, waiting for her husband to come back. She couldn't carry the burden of the news all alone. It was really weighing her down. All of a sudden, she started feeling cold. The cold got intense, and she couldn't stay outside again, so she decided to go into their little sitting room and wait. Mercy was inside the room and heard when her mother walked in. She was really sorry for her actions. She had made the wrong decision by lying to her mother and following her friends to a late-night party. She decided she was going to tell her mother the truth about how it all happened. She stood up and walked into the sitting room, but she found her mother was already sleeping, which was really surprising. Mercy tried to walk back to the room, but she noticed something. Her mother's hands were not relaxing on the chair. They had fallen. She walked back to where she was. She lifted up the hand and placed it properly, but the hands fell off on their own. Mercy was woken up by a bucket of water which was poured on her harshly. She stood up immediately and wiped her face as the water rolled from her head to her face, then all over her body. "Good afternoon, Ma," Mercy greeted, as soon as she wiped her face and saw her madame. "Mrs. Bim, I don't know where my husband picked you from. How can a househelp be asleep by this time of the day? And of all places you chose my living room. Are you okay? What about came back with some prestigious guests? Don't you have things to do?" Mrs. Bimpy asked in anger. "Yes, Mom, I mean no Ma. I am done. Shut up and don't talk when I am talking. You are done with what? So I pay you to come and sleep. Let me see you sleeping again at noon. See me when you are done mopping this floor," Mrs. Bimpy said and walked out in anger. Realize when she slept off. She just finished her chores and sat on the cushion chair in the living room. She began to sing one of her mother's favourite songs. As she sang, she was thrown back to how it all started 6 years ago. She had followed her friends to a night party. The night party which took her virginity away. The same party which took away the trust her mother had for her. The same party which got her pregnant, and the same party which led to her mother's death. After her mother lost her life, she couldn't continue with her external examinations anymore. Her father never completed the payment. She wasn't mentally ready to write the examinations. Her early stage of pregnancy without her mother wasn't easy for her. At a point, Mercy lost hope of living. She saw the world from another angle. As a teenager carrying a pregnancy, people mocked her, and parents told their kids to stay away from her. Mercy almost took her life after her friends laughed at her when they met at the market. She regretted her very action. But the thought of leaving her father all alone in this world, after all he went through for her, made her keep living. It's been 6 years already since her mother died, and God sent Mr. Boniface her way. Mr. Boniface was a very wealthy and influential man. Mr. Boniface's driver almost knocked Mercy down when she was hawking. After speaking with Mercy, he decided to take her in as a maid in his mansion. Even though Mrs. Bimp was very harsh to Mercy, she had no choice than to endure it all for the money. Mr. Boniface pays her well. She uses part of the money to pay for her son's school fees and also help her father with some rent. "That reminds me," Mrs. Bimp said, and walked back into the living room. "My son is coming back tomorrow. He has been in Germany for 6 years now. I know girls of your type. You'll like to hover round him. If I see you close to my son or smiling with him, then you will see my true colours," Mrs. Bimp said, and walked out again. Little did Mrs. Bimpy know the hatred Mercy had for men. After the incident which made her lose her mother, she doesn't communicate with any man. Anyone who tries to speak with her or even stops her on the way is looking for the other side of her. She already made up her mind that she wasn't going to have anything to do with any man because of what the gender did to her. Mercy picked up the bucket that Mrs. Bimp had emptied its contents on. Then she looked for a mop and began to dry the water while still putting on her wet clothes. The cook walked in, smiling. "I heard Madam talking about her son who lives in Germany," she said, but Mercy didn't give her any response. She just kept on mopping. "I have seen his pictures. That man is really handsome. Now his father is a billionaire. Anyone who ends up as his wife will never know poverty again," the cook said, laughing sheepishly. Those were the exact talks that made her lose her mother and ended her with a bastard child. So Mercy was not interested in the conversation. She kept on mopping. When the cook tried to insist and make Mercy respond to her, Mercy took the bucket of water and left the sitting room. The next day, everything was already set for the arrival of the young man who was coming back from Germany. Mr. Boniface had sent a driver with his wife to go to welcome his son at the airport and bring him home. Others waited at home for the heir to return. It took quite about an hour and a half. Car horns were heard at the gate. The gateman opened the gate, and everyone stood outside to welcome him. Their car drove into the compound slowly. After Mrs. Bimp came down from the car, a handsome young man followed. He was well dressed, with a sunshade to match. His father was so happy to see him. The cook was already super excited, and she made some gestures to Mercy, who didn't seem interested. As the joy lingered in the atmosphere, another car horn was heard outside. Everyone wondered who it was. It was only Mrs. Bimpy who kept smiling, because she knew who was at the gate. The gateman ran back and opened the gate, and a sparkling Mercedes-Benz drove into the compound. A young girl came down from the car and ran towards where Mr. Boniface's son was. He opened his arms for her to run into them. He embraced her dearly. It felt like they'd known each other since forever. The cook's countenance changed, and she became angry. Mercy looked at her and smiled mockingly. If eyes had bullets in them, the cook would have sent the young lady to her early grave. She smirked, and then walked into the house following Mercy, who left the scene already. She walked into the kitchen and rested on the kitchen cabinet with her hands folded. Did you see how they were holding themselves in front of everyone? So shameless. the cook said to Mercy as soon as she walked into the kitchen to pick up what she left there. "Grace, better look for your class. The gateman is really interested in you. It's better you look towards that direction and don't get yourself into trouble. Whatever they do doesn't concern you. Just focus on what you are here to do and stop building castles in the air." Mercy advised and walked out of the kitchen. "Me Grace, you expect a pretty girl like me to give a common gateman a chance? I don't like poverty. I'm a beautiful young woman, and I know God brought me here so I can meet the love of my life. I do watch movies now. Yes, in Nollywood movies, the cook always turns out to be the chosen one by the prince. In this case, I'm the cook, and that young man out there is my Prince Charming. I'm going to get him for myself alone," Grace said to herself, smiling. Mrs. Bimp walked into the kitchen and saw Grace smiling to herself. Immediately Grace saw her. She adjusted herself and pretended to be busy. "So you didn't hear me call your name?" Mrs. Bimp asked in a harsh tone. "No, Ma. Sorry, Ma," Grace apologized, bending her knees a bit. "You're lucky. I'm really happy today seeing my son. If not, I would have given you a benefiting slap. Get the food ready. We are waiting at the din yard," Mrs. Bimper said, and walked out of the kitchen. "Get the food ready. We are waiting at the dinning." Grace mimicked and made gestures like Mrs. Bimp. "I'll soon be the boss lady. All I have to do is keep being obedient, just like in the movies, and gain the sympathy of my charming prince," Grace said, and started getting the food ready. When she was done, she served the food. After food, Mrs. Bimper and Mr. Boniface left their son with the young lady who had driven in earlier. Mr. Boniface's son, William, spoke for a while with his guest, Olivia. He then bade her goodbye and retired to his room. Towards evening, a knock came on the door of William's. He answered the door, and it was Mercy. She had come to deliver something to him. It was given to her by Mr. Boniface to give to his son. When William saw Mercy, it felt as if he knew her from somewhere. He just stared at her for a while. Mercy wondered why he was staring at her. Without waiting to ask, he handed the wrapped package to him and then walked out. Williams collected the package from her and went back to sit on his bed. He waved off the thought that he might have known Mercy from anywhere. Maybe she was just familiar, and that was all. Besides, she was just a serving girl, and they wouldn't have crossed paths anywhere. He kept the package given to him and continued with what he was doing on his laptop. A call came into his phone. He picked it up and started smiling over the phone. When Mercy left, she wondered why the young man was staring at her. She wondered if he was okay or something was wrong with him. 2 days later, Williams had already started work in his father's company, which he was going to take over. He had a meeting later in the day and decided to stay at home a little while before going. He was on his laptop, organising some files and discussing with some workers in the company from other branches. Time sped off faster than he thought. When he checked the time, it was almost time for the meeting. He went ahead and got ready to leave the house. A clattering bang was heard in the kitchen. Mrs. Bimp was home, so she speedily rushed towards the kitchen to know what happened. She saw Mercy on the tiled floor with her legs bleeding. Some ceramic plates and glass cups were lying on the floor, all broken into pieces. "So this is why I pay you? To break things in my house? Can you imagine? Do you actually know the cost of these plates? See my cups." "Where is Grace? What are you even doing in this kitchen?" "Why did you break my things?" Mrs. Bimp asked in anger, ignoring the fact that Mercy's legs were bleeding and she was crying. "I'm so sorry, Ma. It was an accident. I didn't..." Mrs. Bimpy swept a slap through the cheeks of Mercy, who was already so sorry for her actions. The hullabaloo drew William's attention, and he walked in at the exact moment when his mother flung Mercy a slap. "Mother, can't you see she is bleeding and needs help?" Williams asked, and came to Mercy's rescue. "Are you not seeing what she has done here? Does she know that her salary can't buy these items? If her parents could afford these items, will she be here serving? I don't know where my husband had picked this dirt from. Just look at the mess," Mrs. Bimpy said, fuming with anger. The stabbing words from Mrs. Bimp sent tears streaming down the cheeks of Mercy, who started crying deeply. She had only wanted to help Grace, who left for the market. Lydian, who didn't like what his mother was doing, turned to face Mercy, who was crying, to apologize and help her get her wound treated. But then, something happened. Seeing Mercy in tears sent Williams down the memory lane. He immediately remembered who Mercy was. He took a few steps backwards, shaking his head slowly. He walked out of the kitchen to the surprise of his mother. He picked up his briefcase and walked out of the house in a haste. No, it can't be. It can't be her. I think my mind is playing tricks on me. How is it possible? How did she come under my father's roof? Is karma hunting me? Williams asked himself as he kept driving out of the house. Finally, when he got to the meeting venue, he was greeted by the workers. His briefcase was carried by the assistant assigned to him by his father. Williams walked into the meeting room. He stood up and addressed the workers by giving a brief speech. Then he sat down. It was time for the workers to give their opinions about the theme of the meeting. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do it. Please leave me alone. I'm the only daughter of my parents. Please don't do this to me. Oh, it hurts. I'm in pain. It hurts so much. Please stop, Mercy said, pleading in tears as she struggled with him. The voices of that exact moment came replaying inside William's head. He was quickly drawn back to how it all started. He had graduated from secondary school and his parents started making plans for him to study abroad. Even with all the money his father had, he was denied admission twice. He was at home for 2 years just waiting to gain admission abroad. His parents tried again, changing the location of the school to Germany. It took quite a lot of money, but Williams finally got admission to school in Germany. He told his rich friends, who were so happy for him. They decided to host a night party to celebrate the admission, and also a kind of send-off. His friends told him they had a gift for him. During their discussion some time ago, he had told them that he hadn't seen or slept with a virgin before. So his friends also added his wish to their list when organising the night party. It wasn't really easy for them to find one. So they decided they could find from the poor girls, who were always well-mannered and trained by their parents. Williams didn't know how his friends had done it, but they brought him a girl who had passed out. As soon as he laid his hands on her, it was as if the drugs they had spiked her drinks with started wearing off. She opened her eyes slowly and saw him. She pleaded in tears. He can't forget her facial expressions. He forcefully had his way into her without any remorse. He didn't want the hard work done by his peers to be in vain. He ignored all her pleas and kept devouring her like a hungry beast. When he was done, the young lady fainted on the bed. He was sure it was the combination of the pains and the drugs that made her pass out again. He left her inside the room and came out. When his friends went into the room and saw the young girl had lost her virginity, they came out and started hailing him. Sir, yes, William said, coming back from his journey to the memory lane. We have been waiting for you to say something, but you are saying nothing, one of the employees said, looking at Williams. Please reschedule this meeting. I think I have a slight headache, Williams said, holding his head. Okay, sir, his assistant said, and made a sign for everyone to leave. When everyone left, William stood up and walked towards the office window. Is the universe trying to torture me? How can I stay under the same roof with the one that I raped? How will she react if she finds out I was the heartless beast who took away her innocence? I think I need to call Peter and tell him the latest. Maybe he can give me some advice on what to do next, William said, and walked towards where his phone was. As he got closer, his phone began to ring. He picked up his phone, and it was Olivia calling. Williams heaved a sigh, and then picked up the call. Open the door, Olivia said over the phone. Williams was curious, so he went ahead and opened the door. There was Olivia, looking so hot with a little bag. What do I owe this surprise, and what is that inside the bag? Williams asked, making a face. I brought lunch for you. I left work and went home just to make a unique dish for you. I think you're really going to like it, Olivia said, and handed the bag to Williams. I like your confidence. Just so you know, I'm really picky with food, and I detect faults in food like a detective. Or should I say, detect food, Williams said, and they both burst out laughing. Williams tasted the food, and it was really delicious. It was seen by the way he shook his head when he took the first bite. I know you'll like it. Now enjoy your meal. Let me run along. Remember that I love you, Olivia said. She kissed Williams and walked out of the office in a haste, leaving Williams smiling. Williams and Olivia had been lovers even before he left for Germany. His parents weren't oblivious of that fact. In fact, his mother gave her full support because Olivia was a daughter to a business associate. Their relationship with Olivia's parents was what gave them the boost to their income. Williams had promised Olivia that he was going to get married to her when he came back from Germany. It was as if everyone was just waiting for Williams to settle a bit before the talk of marriage sets in. Williams was enjoying the food after Olivia left then. Suddenly he didn't anymore. He remembered that the lady he had raped after his friends drugged her was in his house. He also remembered that the helpless girl was going through pains after being bruised by the ceramics, which fell and broke into pieces. He had seen blood on her legs, but couldn't tell where the wound was. He couldn't tell what he was feeling anymore. He dropped his spoon and sat relaxed on his seat, lost in thoughts. Then his phone began to ring. Mrs. Bim was surprised with the way her son left the house immediately. But on a second thought, maybe he realized that work was more important than defending a common maid who had broken her expensive ceramics and glass cups. For your information, you will pay for all these items you've broken with your salary. I won't tolerate carelessness under this roof. Rubbish, Mrs. Bimpy said, and walked out on Mercy, who was pleading with her. Mercy actually doesn't know the cost of what she had damaged. She had already planned what she was going to do with her salary. But from the look of things, Mrs. Bimpy had already made up her mind to take the money from her salary. She hopped out from where the broken glasses were and sat on the tiled floor. She raised her leg, and she saw that she had a deep cut. She had also stepped on the glass shards when she was trying to move back and prevent Mrs. Bimpy from beating her up. The cut was painful. Mercy began to remove the shards which were left under her foot. Blood was dripping from her legs, and she cried bitterly. Grace walked in moments later. She was packing the broken glasses inside the kitchen waste bin. Grace saw the blood and immediately ran towards Mercy. "What happened?" Grace asked, drawing Mercy away from the broken glasses and looking at the wound. "I tried to put the plates I washed on the higher cabin, and it slipped from there," Mercy said, pointing at the spot where she tried to keep the plates. "That cabin is spoilt. I even told Madam about it, and she said she would call a carpenter to repair it. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you about it," Grace said, feeling so sorry for Mercy. Mercy never told her that her mistake of not telling her just cost her her salary. Grace ran into her room to get a bandage. She tried to stop the bleeding, then she wrapped Mercy's legs with the bandage. William's phone began to ring. He picked it up, and it was Peter calling. Williams wondered how Peter had read his thoughts and called him when he needed him most. Peter asked him if he was willing to spend the weekend out. It's just a few days since he came back, and he hasn't really gone out. Williams got lost a bit. He was still battling with the thoughts of his sins which were haunting him. He tried so much to tell Peter what was going on, but something within him kept restraining him. He couldn't tell why, but something told him that telling Peter was going to add to his problems. No one knew yet what he had done in the past. Maybe it was better for him to keep it to himself. "Hello?" "Hello, Wills," Peter said over the phone, thinking the network was gone. "Sorry, Peter, I think the network's disturbed a bit. I'll surely be available for the weekend, Groove. It has been quite a long time," Williams responded. Then he hung up the call. When William got home that night, he walked directly to his room. He wasn't in the mood to speak with anyone, nor was he at peace with himself. Grace served the food she had prepared. Ever since Williams came back, she had always given her best when it came to making delicious meals. As they say, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. While Mrs. Bimp was already famished, she sat at the dining table with her husband and asked Grace to call Williams. Grace was so happy. That was the very first time she was going to William's room. At least she will stand very close to Williams when he opens the door. She would use her respectful yet charming smiles to pin him down. Grace adjusted her clothes and cleaned her face as she walked happily towards William's room. When she got to his door, she knocked on it softly. Instead of Williams opening the door, he asked the person at the door what she/he wanted. Grace was disappointed. She had wanted him to open the door so she could expose him to her charming smiles. She told him that her parents were waiting for him at the dinning. Williams told her he was coming down to join them.